Are you the same with every person that you actually meet? Or are you playing ego math and you're calculating this for that? I'm Mario Leone and welcome to the Voices of Victory channel, where we unpack those difficult and hard truths that exist out there. We're talking about ego math today. Ego math is pretty straightforward. It's this for that. Everything is a calculation. Everything is a measurement. They text me 5 times, I have to text them 5 times and only 5 times. That's where it gets interesting. So instead of focusing on being present in person, so if you have 5 people and you're meeting with all 5, being present with each and every one, being confident with each and every one, what happens is you worry more about your perception and how you're perceived from all thought. Rather than focusing on your confidence, focusing on being present, what you're doing is focusing on putting on a show. And that happens. And that happens a little more than we like to see. So you're constantly measuring. So the hidden questions become, who am I talking to? How should I sound? And what part of who I am will they actually like and accept? Why do people do it? Like, that's the real question here. Why do people do it? The very straightforward reason is to avoid rejection. They don't want to be rejected. But it becomes really exhausting at the end of the day. Very exhausting, because you got to remember who you said what to and when. How you presented yourself to them and how that went down. And you have to memorize all that. And it's totally overwhelming. We could see some of this in social anxiety at best. People do it to avoid being judged as well. They may have that social anxiety. They fear that they're going to be judged. I got news for you. They're going to judge you anyway. I think it's important to accept that fact. You have to have the courage to be disliked to some degree. Now, I'm not saying you got to go out there and be hated by everybody. That's not what I mean. But everyone's going to judge you. We live in a world now, especially with social media, that everyone's going to do it anyway. So why not be focused on your own identity and who you actually are? Why not stand in your own uniqueness without falling into the pitfall of what everybody else thinks about you? They also want to avoid looking foolish. They may have status that they're trying to maintain, especially if they're in business, right? They may want to maintain that status. And they may want to control how others actually perceive them. It is perceptual management at best. So ego math takes all of your conversations and starts throwing it into calculations. And you start concerning yourself with, did they do this? Should I do that? Should I do that when they do this? When they text me, should I call them? And you start to play this mental chess game in your brain that's loaded with anxiety. You're no longer focused on making an in-depth connection with other people. You're more concerned with how you're being perceived rather than how you perceive yourself. If we look at self-image, self-perception, it's how you perceive who you are, the image you have in your mind about who you are. That is crucial. So the ego math turns every single solitary conversation into self-image management at best. There is no connection. You're not focused on connection at all anymore. That should be the primary concern, your connection with people. Connect, convey, convince. That's part of sales. But what about just connect and convey? That's okay. We could convey and connect to people. So with ego math, your conversation is more about protecting who you are and protecting your identity. And you're trying to keep up with what you said and when, all in the name and sake of how you're perceived. Now, what is the common objection? This is where it gets really interesting. A lot of people are going to come to this point in the video. The common objection: I'm different with my friends than I am with my coworkers. That's one common rejection. Everyone changes depending on who they're around. There's a major difference between adjusting your identity and adjusting your behavior. That's the major difference right there. So there is healthy ways to adapt to your relations with people. With friends, you might be more relaxed when you connect with them and go out. With coworkers, you might be more professional. At a funeral, it can be very sad and very serious. At your grandparents, you might actually filter what you say. You might be concerned about how you come across. That is normal social intelligence. That's normal emotional intelligence right there. that. The question is, what's appropriate here? So with ego math, it's not so much as what's appropriate, it's more of how will I be perceived. So how ego math looks is you might talk a certain way around wealthy people. You might change your opinions and go against your own opinions in order to be favored by the opinion of somebody else. So you will betray what you believe, all in the name of being liked and accepted by somebody else, even though deep down you disagree. It happens. You might be around a group of people who are really intelligent and suddenly you'll try to act intelligent like them. You'll pretend to like things that you normally don't like. Being vulnerable is no longer hiding parts of who you are. What you will do is you will hide parts of who you are. So ask yourself this, do you change the way you present yourself in front of other people, or are you actually changing your identity of who you are? Your presentation can change, no problem, but your identity shouldn't. Having a healthy mindset is, this is who I am. I can express different parts of myself, even though it's a different situation. I don't need to become somebody else just to gain their approval in a group. The ego math mindset is entirely different. Which version of who I can be is going to get the best approval. So what ego math actually creates for people is it does create a great deal of social anxiety. It does create a great deal of overthinking as well, because now they have to remember who they said what to. They become very self-conscious. Their self-perception of themselves are having a difficult time. They'll engage in conversations that are not really authentic because they'll compromise parts of themselves in order to actually be liked. This is where they'll say things just to agree with the other person. They're constantly self-checking themselves to see if they said the right thing. So what does confidence look like in this whole entire picture? You stop managing every single word. You're just gonna sit there and say it as it is. There's no need to calculate this for that or calculate every conversation. And there's no need to go after approval by any means. So healthy social intelligence is what's appropriate here, where ego math says something entirely different. It says, who do I have to be accepted and liked right now? Stop trying to sound impressive. Just speak. They're going to judge you anyway. That's what's important to know. People are going to judge you anyway. Just do your best. Everybody has their own mental recipe as to how they perceive you. It's going to be exhausting when you realize that they have a mental recipe that you can't control. Stop trying to sound smart. Stop trying to sound more successful. Stop trying to govern or manage how you're constantly perceived. Just start asking the question, what do I genuinely want to say and what do I genuinely want to express? And understand, have the courage to be disliked. There's going to be people that have a mental recipe and you're not part of it. And it's going to be exhausting of trying to appease everyone all the time. Learn that self-acceptance and be consistent with everyone, because that is going to strengthen your identity. Have a great day. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Take care.